The skies above Earth darkened as the massive fleet of alien vessels entered orbit. Their ships, sleek and luminous, dwarfed humanity's most advanced space stations. For 3 days, they simply watched, scanning, analyzing, before finally making contact. Admiral James Wilson stood in the United Defense Force Command Center, surrounded by grim-faced military leaders from every major nation. The holographic display showed the alien flagship, a vessel nearly 2 miles long. "They're broadcasting again, sir," said Lieutenant Parker, her fingers dancing across the communication console. "Same frequency as before." Wilson nodded. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, revealing a tall, slender figure with iridescent scales and 6-fingered hands. Commander Trell of the Galactic Alliance regarded the humans with what could only be described as disdain. "Your species has been evaluated and found wanting," Trell announced, voice translated through advanced software. "The Alliance requires your world's resources. Your surrender will ensure minimal loss of life." Wilson stepped forward. "We welcome peaceful relations with your Alliance, but Earth is not available for conquest. We propose talks instead." Trell's facial membranes fluttered in what analysts suspected was amusement. "Talks? With primitives? You possess nuclear weapons, but haven't mastered faster-than-light travel. You kill your own kind over resources and beliefs. The Alliance does not negotiate with developing species." "Nevertheless," Wilson replied calmly, "we decline your demand for surrender." The alien commander seemed genuinely surprised. "You misunderstand. This is not a request. Your species will submit or face consequences." Wilson stood taller. "And you misunderstand us, Commander. Humans don't submit to threats." Trell turned aside, speaking to someone off-screen before facing the humans again. "Perhaps a demonstration will clarify our position." The transmission ended abruptly. 30 seconds later, energy beams lanced down from one of the smaller alien vessels, striking the coastal city of Porto Novo in Benin. The destruction was surgical. Only government and military structures were hit, but thousands died in moments. "They're targeting strategic locations only," reported General Martinez, trying to show restraint while demonstrating power. Wilson's eyes narrowed. "A common mistake. They think they're being merciful." He turned to the weapons officer. "Are the orbital platforms ready?" "Yes, sir. All 6 platforms show green." Wilson took a deep breath. "Target the vessel that attacked Porto Novo and fire when ready." The kinetic strike platforms, secretly deployed over the past decade, launched their payloads. Rods of dense tungsten carbide, accelerated to incredible speeds, slammed into the alien vessel before its shields could fully engage. The ship's hull ruptured, atmosphere venting into space as secondary explosions tore through its command section. Silence fell over the command center as everyone watched the alien ship break apart. Then chaos erupted across all communication channels as the Alliance fleet reacted with apparent shock. 3 larger vessels moved to protective positions while others retreated to higher orbits. "They didn't expect resistance," Wilson noted. "They certainly didn't expect effective resistance." The main screen flickered again. Trell reappeared, membranes now rigid with what analysts would later identify as a mixture of rage and disbelief. "You destroyed an Alliance vessel." The alien's voice wavered between question and accusation. Wilson stepped forward. "You attacked our world. We defended ourselves." "This changes protocols," Trell said coldly. "Full subjugation is now authorized." "Before you make that mistake," Wilson replied, "understand something. You just killed thousands of humans. Where I come from, that's not a demonstration. That's a declaration of war." The transmission cut out as the alien fleet began reorganizing in higher orbit. Lieutenant Parker looked up from her console. "Sir, they're retreating beyond lunar orbit. Looks like they're regrouping." Wilson nodded grimly. "Alert all nations. Full mobilization. They'll be back, and next time they won't underestimate us." He gazed at the screen showing the debris of the destroyed alien ship. They just declared war on the wrong species. The Galactic Alliance War Council gathered aboard their command vessel, now positioned safely behind the moon. The ship's ornate meeting chamber, designed to showcase Alliance superiority, now hosted a tense debate. Commander Trell stood at the center, surrounded by holograms of the Alliance's highest officials. One ship lost. Impossible, declared Supreme Commander Vorax, his scaled skin flushed dark with anger. These humans were supposed to be primitive. Trell kept his posture rigid. They had hidden weapons, kinetic strike platforms in orbit. We overlooked them. An intelligence officer named Mara stepped forward, her slender form casting a long shadow across the chamber floor. I've been studying their broadcasts, their history. There's something about humans we missed in our initial assessment. She activated a holographic display showing scenes from Earth's history. Ancient hunters with spears chasing prey to exhaustion, warriors from different eras, modern soldiers enduring extreme conditions. Humans evolved as persistence predators, Mara explained. They hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Their bodies can cool through sweating, allowing them to run for hours. Their minds are wired to endure pain, overcome obstacles, and never stop pursuing a goal. The council shifted uncomfortably as Mara continued. And their history? Endless warfare. They've been fighting each other for thousands of years, constantly improving their killing efficiency. They create weapons specifically designed to destroy their own kind. Supreme Commander Vorax snorted. Primitive weapons are still primitive. With respect, Mara countered. They'd gone from first flight to space travel in under a century. Their rate of technological adaptation exceeds any species we've encountered. And now they know our technology exists. They will learn from the ship they destroyed. Meanwhile on Earth, governments set aside decades-old rivalries as humanity united against the alien threat. In a hidden facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Thomas Reed worked frantically alongside a team of the world's best scientists. Play the footage again, Reed instructed, his tired eyes fixed on the screen showing the destruction of the alien vessel. The team had been analyzing the battle for 48 hours straight. There, he said, freezing the image. That's the moment our strike penetrated their shields. Something about the frequency of our kinetic impact created a momentary resonance disruption. A young physicist named Maya nodded excitedly. If we could reproduce that effect with directed energy weapons, we could punch through their defenses at will, Reed finished. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. Get me everything we've recovered from their communications. Their shield technology must operate on principles we can understand. In orbit, Admiral Wilson toured humanity's hastily assembled space fleet. Old rivalries forgotten. Chinese, American, Russian, and European spacecraft had been armed with experimental weapons and retrofitted for battle. The vessels looked crude compared to the alien ships, but Wilson knew appearances could be deceiving. We have 5 days at most before they attack again, Wilson told his assembled commanders. They'll come with overwhelming force next time. Captain Rogers, a veteran pilot, spoke up. My team has been studying their flight patterns. Their ships are fast but predictable. They rely too heavily on their technology, and not enough on tactical flexibility. Wilson nodded. That's our advantage. They think in straight lines. We need to think around corners. Across Earth, military bases hummed with activity as mothballed weapons were reactivated and experimental prototypes fast-tracked into production. Civilian communications carried messages of defiance rather than fear. Humanity, with its back against the wall, was doing what it had always done best, adapting, preparing, and refusing to submit. Back on the Alliance command ship, Trell reviewed the invasion plans with growing unease. The humans had surprised them once. Something told him they would do so again. Begin the assault in 3 cycles, he ordered. This time, no restraint. Show these creatures what happens when they challenge the Alliance. Mara watched silently from the corner, wondering if the Council understood what they had truly awakened on the blue planet below. The Alliance fleet descended upon Earth with overwhelming force 3 days later. Over 200 vessels of various sizes filled the skies, their weapons primed to subjugate the defiant humans. Commander Trell stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching tactical displays with confident satisfaction. "Begin the primary assault," he ordered. "Target their military installations first, then power generation facilities." Energy beams lanced down toward Earth's surface, but instead of striking their targets, many dissipated against hastily erected energy shields, technology the humans shouldn't have possessed. "Impossible," Trell muttered. "They've adapted our shield designs already." The truth was both simpler and more impressive. Earth's scientists hadn't replicated alien shields. They'd simply created massive electromagnetic fields that disrupted the alien targeting systems just enough to throw off their aim. On the outskirts of the Alliance formation, Captain Jack Miller led his small team aboard the stealth vessel, Ghost. The ship, painted with experimental light-absorbing material, drifted silently toward one of the smaller alien craft. "Approach vector locked," whispered Lieutenant Foster, her hand steady on the controls. "Their sensors haven't picked us up yet." Jack nodded. "Remember, we need that ship intact. Aim for their external communication array and propulsion only." The Ghost fired its newly developed pulse weapons, designed based on observations of the alien technology. The targeted Alliance vessel's engines flickered and died before its crew could send a distress signal. "Boarding team ready," reported Sergeant Brooks, checking his gear one last time. Using cutting tools developed for deep-sea operations, the team breached the alien hull within minutes. The aliens inside fought bravely, but were unprepared for close-quarters combat against determined human soldiers. "Ship secured," Jack reported back to Earth Command. "We're downloading their navigation and tactical databases now." Across the globe, similar scenes played out as humanity employed unconventional tactics against their technologically superior enemy. Submarines launched stealth drones that attached to the underside of low-orbiting alien vessels. Special Forces teams used mountain training to survive conditions the aliens found intolerable, launching surprise attacks from positions deemed uninhabitable. In the Alliance command ship, frustration mounted as reports of failures poured in. "Their behavior defies our strategic models," complained the tactics officer. "They should be focusing on defending population centers, but they're sacrificing cities to strike at our vulnerabilities." Trell slammed his six-fingered hand against the console. "They're fighting like cornered animals." "No," corrected Mara, the intelligence officer. "They're fighting like predators who know the terrain. This is their hunting ground." In Dr. Reed's underground lab, teams worked around the clock analyzing the data streaming in from captured alien technology. The scientist hadn't slept in days, surviving on caffeine and determination. "I've got it," he announced suddenly, pointing to a simulation on his screen. "Their shield technology operates on a rotating frequency. If we time our attacks precisely between the oscillations," Maya, his colleague, finished the thought, "we can penetrate their defenses with even our conventional weapons." Reed nodded, his exhausted face breaking into a smile. "Get this to Admiral Wilson immediately." In orbit, the battle continued. Alliance ships maintained formation, following standard military doctrine, predictable, organized, and increasingly ineffective against the chaotic human counterattacks. Small, agile Earth vessels darted between the alien formations, causing confusion and drawing fire away from more valuable targets. On the captured alien ship, Jack and his team made a discovery that could change everything. "Sir," called Foster, examining the alien navigational system, "I've found coordinates for what appears to be their primary supply depot. It's in orbit around Mars." Jack studied the information, a plan already forming. "Send this to command with highest priority. We just found their Achilles heel." As the third day of battle ended, the Alliance's losses mounted unexpectedly. Their superior technology was being negated by human adaptability and fierce determination. In the command ship, doubt began to creep into the minds of even the most confident officers. Trell stared at the tactical display, watching another of his ships go dark under human attack. "What manner of creatures have we awakened?" he whispered. The war entered its second week with a devastating blow to Alliance confidence. Earth's combined forces launched Operation Thunderstrike, the coordinated assault that caught the alien fleet completely off guard. Admiral Wilson stood on the bridge of the UDF Defiance, Earth's first true battle carrier. Around him, officers monitored dozens of screens showing Earth vessels engaging the enemy across the entire system. "Shield-penetrating technology deployed to all forward units," reported his tactical officer. "Dr. Reed's calculations are holding. We're breaking through their defenses." Wilson watched as human ships, many cobbled together from pre-invasion designs, swarmed the more advanced alien vessels. What the Earth ships lacked in technology, they made up for in numbers and unpredictability. Their pilots executed maneuvers that Alliance tactical computers dismissed as too risky, ignoring that humans had evolved to take calculated risks. "Begin Phase 2, Wilson ordered. "Deploy the Mars Strike Force." On the captured Alliance ship, now renamed Trojan, Captain Jack and his crew approached the Martian orbit where the aliens had established their main supply depot. The vessel's transponder still identified it as friendly to Alliance systems. "They're sending authentication codes," Foster said tensely. Jack remained calm. "Send the response package our techs prepared." The stolen codes worked. The supply depot's automated defenses remained dormant as the Trojan approached. "All teams in position," Brooks confirmed. "Charges set to their fuel processing center." Jack checked the mission timer, synchronizing with main fleet action. Now, across the solar system, human forces executed their attacks with precise timing. As the main Alliance fleet scrambled to defend against Wilson's frontal assault, the supply depot erupted in a series of explosions. The secondary blasts were even more devastating as stored energy cells detonated in chain reactions. In the Alliance command ship, Trell watched in horror as his tactical display lit up with alerts. "Supply depot destroyed," cried his logistics officer. "Fuel reserves at critical levels." Mara, the intelligence officer, looked grim. The humans coordinated attacks across a distance of millions of miles, timed to the second. "Their level of strategic planning exceeds our models." "Retreat," Trell ordered, his voice barely audible. "Pull back to lunar orbit and regroup." As the Alliance forces withdrew from Earth orbit, humanity pressed its advantage. Using Dr. Reed's breakthrough, Earth weapons now penetrated alien shields at will. Alliance vessels, designed for efficiency rather than durability, proved surprisingly vulnerable once their main defenses failed. In Antarctica, a team of scientists and engineers led by Dr. Reed worked in an abandoned Alliance landing craft. The vessel had crashed during the initial invasion, providing humanity with intact alien manufacturing technology. "Their production systems are remarkable," Reed observed, watching robotic assemblers rebuild components. "They've automated everything to such a degree they've forgotten how to improvise." His team had already begun modifying the alien designs, merging human ingenuity with Alliance precision. The first hybrid weapons would be ready within days. Back in orbit, Wilson received reports from across the system. Earth forces had captured 3 more alien vessels intact. Civilian engineers had adapted Alliance communication technology, giving humanity its first faster-than-light communication capability. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're intercepting transmissions between the Alliance fleet and their homeworld." Wilson moved to the console, watching as the translation software decoded the alien language. "They're requesting reinforcements," he said, reading the message. "But there's something else. Dissent. Some factions are questioning the wisdom of continuing this war." His strategic officer nodded thoughtfully. "Psychological impact of defeat. They've never experienced it before." Wilson studied the star map showing Alliance territory beyond the solar system. "Prepare a message for all Earth forces. The momentum has shifted. It's time to take this fight beyond our borders." In the debris field that had been the Alliance supply depot, Captain Jack recovered data cores containing navigational information for the entire sector. For the first time, humanity had maps of nearby star systems and the locations of Alliance worlds. The hunters were about to leave their den and pursue their prey. The captured Alliance manufacturing facilities on Mars became humanity's springboard to the stars. Just 23 days after the initial invasion, Earth launched its first interstellar offensive. 5 Alliance vessels, now commanded by human crews, jumped into faster-than-light travel. Their destination a small Alliance outpost in the nearby Alpha Centauri system. Admiral Wilson stood on the bridge of the flagship Vengeance, watching stars blur past view screens as the ship traveled at speeds humans had only dreamed about months earlier. "Jump complete in 30 seconds," announced the navigation officer, a former commercial airline pilot who had adapted remarkably quickly to interstellar travel. Wilson nodded. "Battle stations. Remember, we want their communication hub intact." The small fleet dropped out of FTL on the outskirts of the system. The Alliance outpost, a ring-shaped station orbiting a barren moon, was visible in the distance, its crew completely unaware of the approaching danger. "No alarm signals," reported the communications officer. "They don't know we're here." Wilson smiled grimly. "Let's keep it that way." Stealth approach pattern. The human fleet moved silently toward the outpost, using techniques developed by Earth's submarine forces. Passive scanning only, minimal power signatures, and patience. The Alliance, accustomed to announcing their presence with overwhelming force, had never developed effective countermeasures against such tactics. On the Alliance homeworld, the Governing Council met in emergency session. Reports of Earth's counteroffensive had sent shockwaves through their society. "How are these primitives adapting our technology so quickly?" demanded Supreme Commander Vorex, his scales now permanently darkened with stress. Trell, recently recalled from the front, stood before the council in disgrace. "They think differently. They don't follow expected patterns. He searched for the right words. They improvise constantly." A junior counselor spoke up nervously. "Several minor member species have stopped responding to communications. Intelligence suggests they may have defected to the humans." This news sent the council into turmoil. Alliance society was built on the principle of technological and cultural superiority. The idea that member species would side with primitives was unthinkable. Back in Alpha Centauri, Wilson's fleet struck with surgical precision. The outpost's defensive systems, designed to repel large-scale assaults, proved useless against targeted strikes at critical nodes, a strategy developed by Earth's special forces for taking down heavily fortified compounds. "Communication hub secured," reported Captain Jack, leading the boarding party. "We're downloading their entire database, star charts, fleet positions, defense codes, everything." The true value of the raid became apparent hours later, when Wilson's team discovered records of Alliance psychological assessments. The aliens had comprehensive files detailing how each species in the galaxy responded to threats. Humans were notably absent from these studies. "They've never encountered a species like us," Wilson realized, reviewing the data. They categorize species as either herd prey, solitary prey, pack hunters, or solitary hunters. We're some combination they can't classify. Dr. Reed, joining the expedition via holographic link from Mars, studied the files with fascination. "We can use this. If they can't predict our behavior, we can exploit that confusion." Within days, Wilson implemented a new strategy. Human ships began appearing randomly throughout Alliance territory, striking without warning and disappearing before reinforcements arrived. Each attack targeted communication centers, spreading confusion and fear. Earth psychological warfare units broadcast messages to Alliance worlds, emphasizing humanity's predatory nature. Images of human history's fiercest warriors, Vikings, Mongols, Spartans, Zulus, Gurkhas, were transmitted alongside footage of Earth predators hunting prey. The message was clear: humans were coming, and they never stopped pursuing their targets. On a dozen Alliance worlds, subjugated species watched these broadcasts in secret, hope kindling for the first time in generations. When human forces appeared in their systems, many chose to assist rather than resist. The Alliance Council, accustomed to thousands of years of dominance, faced something entirely new. A determined enemy who fought not just to survive, but to win at any cost. An enemy who seemed to grow stronger with each defeat. Vorax stared at reports of yet another system lost to human forces. "What have we unleashed?" he whispered. The war entered its third month as humanity pushed deeper into Alliance territory. Earth forces, now commanding over 50 captured vessels and hundreds of smaller craft, had secured 7 star systems. Admiral Wilson stood before a holographic display showing their next target, Nexus Prime, the Alliance homeworld. "This is where we ended," Wilson told his assembled commanders. "Not with extermination, but with a demonstration they cannot ignore." The plan was audacious. While Earth's main fleet engaged Alliance defenses at the system's edge, Captain Jack would lead a small team directly to the planet's surface in a stealth vessel. Their target was the Central Command Complex, the heart of Alliance military operations. "Dr. Reed has developed something special for this mission," Wilson continued, nodding to the scientist's hologram. Reed held up a small device. "We call it the Blackout Box. Once activated, it will create a cascading failure throughout their defense network. Every automated weapon system in the system will shut down simultaneously for approximately 10 minutes. 10 minutes to end a war that had begun with humanity fighting for survival and now culminated with Earth forces striking at the enemy's heart. Success depends on precise timing," Wilson emphasized. "If we hit them from all sides exactly when their defenses fail, the psychological impact will be devastating." As preparations continued, the Alliance Supreme Council faced its own crisis. For the first time in thousands of years, the ruling faction faced serious opposition. "We must negotiate while we still hold some advantage," argued Council Member Vex, representing the growing peace faction. "Surrender to primitives," Vorax scoffed. "The Alliance has ruled for 10,000 years. We will crush these humans eventually." Trell, reinstated due to desperation rather than confidence, spoke carefully. "The humans have taken 7 systems in 3 months. Their adaptation rate exceeds anything in our records. They're learning to build their own ships with our technology now." The council chamber fell silent as this reality sank in. Alliance superiority had always been maintained through technological advantage. If humans mastered their technology so quickly, what advantage would remain? As the human fleet prepared for its final assault, Captain Jack briefed his infiltration team aboard the stealth ship Shadow. "Our intelligence comes from several Alliance defectors," he explained, showing detailed schematics of the Central Command. "The complex has 3 access points with minimal guards. They rely almost entirely on automated defenses. Lieutenant Foster studied the approach vector. Their sensors will detect our descent regardless of stealth technology." Jack smiled. "That's where our new friends come in." He gestured to an alien standing nearby, a member of the Telnar species, long subjugated by the Alliance. "Krell's people have maintained the sensor arrays for centuries. They've built in blind spots known only to them." The diverse team represented humanity's greatest strength, the ability to form alliances based on mutual respect rather than force. As the operation began, Wilson's main fleet approached the Nexus system in standard formation, appearing to follow the predictable tactics the Alliance expected. The enemy responded exactly as anticipated, positioning their defensive fleet in a textbook counterformation. "They're still thinking in conventional patterns," Wilson observed. "Signal the flanking groups to prepare for micro-jumps." Meanwhile, Jack's team slipped through the planetary defense grid using the Telnar blind spots. Their vessel touched down silently just 2 miles from the Central Command Complex. Under cover of darkness, the team moved quickly through service tunnels known only to the maintenance species. In the Alliance war room, Commander Trell sensed something was wrong. The human attack is too straightforward. It doesn't match their established patterns. Before his concerns could be addressed, Jack's team reached the central power distribution node and activated the blackout box. Throughout the system, Alliance defense systems went dark. "Now," ordered Wilson, and Earth's hidden fleet elements executed precisely calculated microjumps, appearing all around the Alliance formation. On the planet's surface, Jack's team breached the now defenseless command center. They encountered minimal resistance. The Alliance officers, accustomed to technological superiority, had never prepared for direct combat. Within minutes, Jack stood in the Supreme Council chamber itself, facing the stunned alien leadership. "Gentlemen," he said calmly, "Admiral Wilson would like to discuss terms of surrender." The ancient council chamber, built when the Alliance was young, now hosted representatives from 27 species. Sunlight filtered through crystalline walls, illuminating the historic gathering. At the center table sat Admiral Wilson, flanked by Captain Jack and Dr. Reed, facing Supreme Commander Vorax and the remnants of the Alliance leadership. "The terms are non-negotiable," Wilson stated calmly. "The Alliance will release all subjugated worlds. Each species will determine its own fate. Technology will be shared equally among all civilizations." Vorax's scales rippled with barely contained anger. "You demand the end of 10,000 years of order. The lesser species lack the maturity to govern themselves." Wilson's expression remained neutral. "They managed before the Alliance conquered them. They'll manage again." Mara, the intelligence officer who had first recognized humanity's true nature, stepped forward from the Alliance delegation. "The Council accepts these terms with one question. Why have you shown restraint? You could have destroyed our worlds. Our cultural database indicates predator species typically eliminate threats completely." A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. Many had expected humanity to annihilate the Alliance leadership in revenge. Wilson rose from his seat and walked to the chamber's large viewing window. The Alliance capital city spread out below, largely intact despite the brief but decisive battle. "Humanity has a complex history," he began. "We are predators, yes. Our evolution shaped us as hunters. But we're also builders, explorers, and when given the chance, peacekeepers." He turned back to face the chamber. "We fight fiercely when threatened, but we prefer peace when possible." Throughout the hall, translation devices relayed his words to dozens of species. Representatives from worlds only recently liberated from Alliance control listened with particular interest. "Your mistake," Wilson continued, "was assuming technological advancement and ethical advancement were the same thing. You judged us primitive because our spaceships weren't as fast as yours. You never considered that a species might develop compassion alongside technology." Dr. Reed added, "Your records show you've conquered every world you've encountered for millennia. You forgot there were other ways to interact with different species." The formal treaty was signed 3 days later. The Galactic Alliance was dissolved and replaced by the Interstellar Cooperative, a voluntary association with equal representation for all member worlds. Earth declined a leadership position, instead accepting a role as coordinator of the new organization's defensive forces. At a smaller ceremony afterward, Wilson met privately with representatives from 7 previously subjugated species. "You could have taken control of everything," said the Telnar delegate. "Why didn't you?" Wilson smiled slightly. "Because conquering isn't our goal. We want partners, not subjects." Captain Jack, standing nearby, added, "Besides, establishing an empire is inefficient. We'd rather have allies who work with us because they want to, not because they're forced to." 6 months after the war ended, a new alien delegation arrived in Earth orbit. They came from beyond known space, a powerful empire that had observed the conflict from afar and now sought to evaluate this new power. Admiral Wilson welcomed them aboard the diplomatic vessel Horizon. The alien ambassador, clearly accustomed to deference, spoke with thinly veiled condescension. "We have followed your species' rise with interest," the ambassador stated. "Your defeat of the Alliance was unexpected. We wish to establish formal relations and determine your intentions toward our territory." Wilson noted the implied threat in the ambassador's tone, the suggestion that this new empire might pose a challenge if they didn't like humanity's answer. "We welcome peaceful relations with all species," Wilson replied cordially. "We have no interest in your territory or resources, but I should warn you." He paused, meeting the ambassador's gaze directly. "We've learned a great deal these past months. Study our recent history carefully before you decide how to proceed with us." The ambassador shifted uncomfortably under Wilson's steady gaze. "We are predators who choose peace," Wilson concluded with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Remember that distinction. It has proven important." As the delegation departed, Wilson turned to Captain Jack. "They'll either become our strongest allies, or they'll make the same mistake the Alliance did." Jack nodded. "And if it's the latter?" Wilson looked out at the stars. "Then they'll learn the same lesson. Never declare war on humanity unless you're prepared to face the consequences."